And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another live stream here on the Explorer of Horror channel. Today, we're talking some Resident Evil. And today I got a very special guest here, Marty from the Trash Picture Show. Thank you
How
so
you
much for
doing?
being here, Marty. How you
Oh
doing?
fuck! Any chance to talk Resi? The games, I mean, not the fucking shitty arse movies. The games.
That'll be probably, if we ever did a video where we broke down the shows and movies, that'd be like the most heated stream probably I'd do in a while, because they have too many. There's so many bumps in that road, man.
Oh
So much
fuck
bad
yeah!
shit there. But today we're talking about the good shit. We're talking about the video games, particularly the main entries. We're going to throw in some side games here and there that we want to kind of mention a little bit about, honorable mentions, maybe ones that we're not too big on. Maybe discuss a little bit about how we got into Resident Evil, where it all started. Maybe get a bit into the movies as well. We'll see how it goes. We'll just sort of chill, hang out, and let this thing ride out and see what happens. But yeah, so Marty, I actually didn't know that you were a really big fan of Resident Evil. I've seen you do some videos with figures and stuff like that, but I was like, I wasn't like, I didn't know if you were like a super fan of Resident Evil. But it's cool
Yeah,
that you are.
yeah. I was introduced to the series by a very close friend of mine who sadly passed away, and day one, whenever a Resi game came out, they had them and they collected all the figures and stuff, and they were like, "Oh, you got to play this, you got to play this kind of scenario," and like I fucking like the weekend the game had come out, I'd be like straight down to the house, and we'd playing Nemesis, or we'd play fucking Resi 4. That was Jesus. We spent an entire weekend playing Resi 4, and that was fucking class. That game for when it came out for the GameCube. Hey, Ginger Ninja.
What's up, man?
Yeah, Resi 4 was a fucking religious experience, and I love the characters. I love the idea of like fucking George A. Romero meets fucking essentially Jerry Bruckheimer. It's like fucking it's zombies, but on a fucking massive action scale.
Mm,
And I think that's a double-edged sword, because as the games went on, say the likes of 5 and 6, they kind of lost their way a bit. We ended up
yeah.
getting action games, and like you've got a cover mechanic in a fucking Resident Evil game. What the fuck is going on here? But the newer ones like Village and stuff, and the remakes, they brought them back to their roots again. But yeah, again, I love this series, and it's in no small part to a friend of mine, Rose, R.I.P. She was a legend, and she was absolutely intricate into introducing me to the franchise.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I sort of began my journey with Resident Evil at a very young age. I remember when I was probably too young. I was probably like 6 or 7 years old when I played the first Resident Evil game. I played it at my uncle's house because he had a PS1, and the only way back then that you could play that game was PS1 or PC. And I didn't have either, but my uncle had a PS1. So I played a little bit of it at his house, and I thought it was interesting as a kid. I thought it was a movie at first because it opens with like a live action cutscene, and the acting is just on another freaking level of awesomeness at how bad it is. But
Oh yeah,
it was interesting. Then a few years later, I got a Nintendo 64. I had one, and I was digging through the box one day, and I found Resident Evil 2. And Resident Evil 2 was the first Resident Evil game that I played all the way through. And ever since then, I've just been hooked. I bought Resident Evil 4. I played Resident Evil 5 when it dropped. I remember that was one of the few games. So that was '09, so I was 9 years old.
yeah.
And my dad was like, because my parents really didn't buy me like brand new video games as soon as they dropped like that. But I remember for Resident Evil 5, I was like, I got to get this opening day. So we went and waited in line for it and got the original Resident Evil 5
Did,
PS3
did,
game.
did you play it with your dad? Because 5 was split screen. You could play it with two players.
I didn't. Well, he wasn't really playing games at the time. He
Okay.
kind of stepped out when the PS2 when the PS2 went into the PS3 era. He kind of didn't play games anymore. But him playing Resident Evil 4, he'd always watch me play it, then he'd play it, and I'd watch him play it. Same with like Silent Hill 2. That's how I got into the Silent Hill franchise. Was I see my dad playing it one day, and I'm like, oh my god, what is that? It just looking at Silent Hill, Resident Evil, you're like, what is this? This looks interesting. And just remember from there on playing Resident Evil and getting to the games, and I'd go get the used copies at game stores. I'd go and just get some money. I'd scrounge up some money, save up some money from people being like, oh, here's $10. Maybe go get some from the store. I'd save it, and I'd be like, all right, cool, I got $20. I'm going to go get a Resident Evil game. And it was the game series to me when I was a kid. It was Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Call of Duty, and I'd say like stuff like Dead Rising. That was a big one too.
That was fun.
Game series. Yeah, I love Dead Rising as well. But it was interesting to see because I also grew up with the movies, and it was just an interesting time because at that time, Resident Evil 4 dropped and everybody was into the Resident Evil games again, and the lore was pretty popular, and it was just a cool time to be a Resident Evil fan. There was a lot going on. But we got a lot going on in this chat. I'll just kind of scroll through here as you're replying.
First Resi game I played was Resi 2. Got it with my PS at midnight. Didn't stop playing till 7 a.m. Fucking Ninja, I think we've all done that, man.
Mm-hmm.
Code Veronica. Yeah, Code Veronica fucking kicked arse. Code Veronica was badass.
Big shout out to everybody in the chat, and big shout out to Marty for sharing the link out and stuff, because now we got a big audience here, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Resi 3 was the fucking dog's bollocks. Ninja, that was called Operation Mad Jackal. You could play as Mikhail, Nikolai, and Carlos, the mercenaries mode. And they carry that mercenaries mode over to the later games as well.
Oh, nice. I never really got the mercenaries mode. I always just played the games and moved on. I tried it with the original Resident Evil. It just... A lot of Resident Evil fans, that's their thing, is, after the game's beat. And I'm more like, I move on to the next one. But it is fun. It's a cool challenge mode. I like to play the mercenaries mode in some of those games. Not really the new ones, but mainly the old ones. But yeah, there was just a whole slew of Resident Evil games. We're going to keep this one with the main entries. We're going to kind of sprinkle in the side games here and there that we kind of want to bring up. As a matter of fact, we can get into that right now before we start the ranking. Are there any honorable mentions that you'd like to throw in? Maybe a side game you play on the Wii or GameCube, or maybe just one of the side ones that you wanted to give a spotlight to a bit.
Yeah, Resident Evil Outbreak came out for the PS2. Really cool game. You had to lead a team of survivors, and you could switch. And one of you could actually it was able, if you got infected, you could actually turn into a zombie and attack the other players. Part 2 was awesome because you ended up in Raccoon Zoo and had to fight fucking zombie lions and a zombie elephant.
Yeah, I seen that. I didn't ever really play Fallout number 2, but I seen clips from it in gameplay, and that's so fun. That's so fun. Yeah, I played Resident Evil Outbreak. I can throw that out there as an honorable mention as well. I think Resident Evil Outbreak, I don't know how it really plays now, because I know back in the day it was more multiplayer based, but it's a fun one. It's interesting. It's in the middle of the outbreak, and you're having these various characters with various skills, and you got to figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are, and using them. What got kind of annoying though is if you're playing with AI, the AI sucks, and they always talk, and they talk, and they talk, and they talk, and I'm like, shut up.
Fuck up. Look, we have to get this manhole cover off. Shut up and fucking help me. And you're like, Christ, why did I pick Carol the fucking waitress? Why did I pick Carol the waitress?
Yeah, just like, man. Or I notice sometimes characters that are meant to be in a specific level, they'll pop up and then they'll disappear. I'm like, wait a minute. So I have my 2 followers over here. It's me as one character. The waitress is in that level. She walks through and then she disappears. And I'm like, what the fuck happened there? Maybe that was just my game. I don't know. But I always notice Yoko in the lab. Yoko's there, but she doesn't really do anything. I think that's her name, Yoko, right?
Yeah, fucking. Maybe she's married to John Lennon. Maybe she isn't. Nate, can I actually give one dishonorable mention,
Uh-huh.
if that's okay?
Yeah, sure.
Uh,
I got
would
plenty of them to
rather,
give too, man.
I would rather fucking
Oh,
pull out my
Jesus.
fucking pubes than play this. Avoid this at all costs.
Mm,
I got
I
it for
seen gameplay.
completion's sake. But Jesus,
It looks
fuck, it's
horrid.
a terrible game. It's fucking Jesus, man.
I've seen gameplay of that. It's pretty horrid looking.
Oh.
There was no way for me to play that. I couldn't find it anywhere. I was curious about it. I found Dead Aim once, and I didn't have enough. It was like, wait, they wanted $34 or something. I was like, no way, not for that. But I did play at a friend's house, and I guess I can get into some of my more Resident Evil games. I'm not a fan of the side stuff. Believe it or not, I'm not the biggest fan of Resident Evil Zero. I've never really been into Resident Evil Zero.
I had that for the cube, and I gave it to a friend. And usually I'm fairly fucking. Hey, you've got my game for about a month. Are you done with it, or can I get it back? With that one, not so much. Zero had a cool premise, but it was bastard hard, and it wasn't fair hard. It was more like, yeah, we're just making this extra hard to fucking expand or extend its playability. It was an unfair game, and it wasn't fun.
Yeah, I wasn't. It looks cool, like graphics wise, pretty impressive looking graphics for the time. And I don't mind the idea of like, okay, well, while everything was going on in Resident Evil 1, there was this thing happening over here. And I'm like, okay, we'll see how that goes. But the way they go the story and the characters, I was just like, this is kind of meh.
And like, it's like, wait, how the fuck? Why is Rebecca so fucking surprised with some of this shit that's happening? Also, yeah, Larry, Survivor or Operation, myself and Nate were talking about Operation Raccoon City. Christ. Fuck, man. That's a shitty game.
I don't know which one. I mean, maybe Operation Raccoon, but it's still not a good game. Like, it's still trash. I don't like that game either, Operation Raccoon City.
No, that
one, not a
that's
big fan
what Larry
of.
was saying, dude. He was saying, like, if I thought that Dead Aim was bad, what did I think of Survivor or Raccoon City or Operation Raccoon City? Yeah, fucking Raccoon City, man. That was, again, you put an action, you turn the Resident Evil games into action, you're like missing the point.
Yeah, I just didn't think it really went. It just didn't gel too good. I don't know. Didn't care for that one. Wasn't really the biggest fan of Dead Aim. Thought it was interesting concept. Most of the side games I really wasn't big on. I liked Outbreak. There is one that we'll mention. I'll sprinkle into the ranking because that one I got high up there, but maybe a few more. But yeah, I guess to kind of start our ranking list here, we're gonna go right down to the bottom of the list. I got 12 entries on this list.
Okay.
That the sort of main entry stuff, remakes included. My number 12 is Resident Evil 6.
Yeah.
Down at the bottom of the barrel, man.
I'm right with you. I mean, not only is it a bad game, not only is it they try and do the action thing, they also have the title looks like a woman giving a fucking giraffe a blowjob. I mean, once you see it, you can't unsee it. I mean, look at that 6, Nate. It looks like a lady sucking off a giraffe. So that alone.
Maybe they got bored. Maybe they got bored and they were like, we got to put something that's entertaining. Let's hide something in the logo.
No, yeah. Larry's dead right. 6 is crap. And like, unless you've got some taste for bestiality and like to see a woman suck off a giraffe, and all the characters are like fucking Sherry Burkham's a whiny little bitch and fucking you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Gabe?
It is absolutely crazy. When that game dropped, it was another Resident Evil game that I got when it first dropped, but it was insanely cheap. Like, it may have been, okay, so I might have waited a week to get it, but still a week later, games aren't going to go down that much in price. Like, they usually stay at that time, maybe $40 range, $50 range. That game went down to like $25 in a week. So I went and I was like, oh, cool. I got it, brought it home. Oh man, it was disappointing to say the least. Yeah, I'm not a fan. This is a rough stage in the game, no pun intended, for Resident Evil, because at this time it was all about action. They were not focusing on the horror elements. It became, you run into a room and you can take down 1,000 fucking mutants with your handgun alone and just blow people away and blow zombies away in chunks. And I'm like,
even those, like Ginger Ninja says, anywhere I can go around shooting zombies. Yes, you're right. There is, like, Leon segments have you fighting zombies. But then later on, when you're Chris or fucking Wesker's son, you're fighting the Jivaros or the New Jazz. I don't know what the fuck they're called. It's basically mutant dudes with guns that you have to fucking, you have to headshot a couple of times to take down.
They made Chris Redfield an asshole. And I was just like, I don't know how to feel about that. And just it was a bit big. It was too big. It was ambitious, but it was too ambitious. You got like 8 different storylines going on with 8 different main characters. And you got, one story focuses more on human villains. And the other one is more about mutants and G viruses and stuff and other new viruses. Then there's one about just zombies. So I get what they were trying to do.
It was Nate, did you feel it was more fucking, it was more Michael Bay's Resident Evil than any fucking
Absolutely.
Game?
There's some over-the-top, Resident Evil 5 and 6 have some of the most over-the-top shit where even I was like, this is stupid.
Fucking man. Leon, well, isn't there, like, Leon has to fucking fly a jumbo jet into Tokyo or some shit like that?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Thing that exists in Resident Evil.
Here?
We got to that point. It became ridiculous, man. And just, I thought the weapons, you could upgrade them and, you can do stuff with your weapons, but
were shit.
You don't really need to. Yeah, they're really awful. I hate the fucking look of that game. I hate the blue lights that flash every time there's a cut scene and they try to do the whole lens flare look. And it's such an ugly ass game. And the graphics themselves aren't terrible, as far as like the way that the maps look and the creature design, and pretty damn good for when it came out. But I hate that the look of the cutscenes and how everything's got to have lens flares and blue lighting. I'm just like, ugh. And I don't really understand why the logo, because the logo is like a spider theme. Do you even fight spiders in Resident Evil 6?
Look, the logo is a spider web with a woman sucking off a giraffe.
Yeah, they didn't even know what it is. They're like, yeah, that's a lot funner.
I also found the fucking it was very finicky. It was a very finicky control system. If you wanted to switch weapons, or if you wanted to use med packs or fucking med tablets or whatever the fuck they were using.
Let's get rid of herbs and not make it about herbs anymore.
Yeah,
make it generic.
I don't know. It was just for everything they tried to do right, they done 4 or 5 fucking things wrong. Their heart was in the right place, but at the end of the day, it didn't feel like Resident Evil.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is your bottom of the barrel too.
Oh fuck yeah, I'm with you. I think you and me are probably gonna have a lot of similar kind of picks.
So with Resident Evil 6, I'm kind of glad they rebooted the series, or went in a different direction rather after this, because it really needed to. And this next one on my list is it backs it up. And that is number 11, Resident Evil 5, which I know a lot of people are like, that's pretty low. The only game that I would kind of wrestle with and whether or not I would put it as low as 5 is the 3 remake. But the 3 remake, I'll give it a pass because I think the look of the graphics and the zombies, and like I think at least in Resident Evil 3 remake, you're not dealing with Sheva. And Resident Evil 5 to me, so you have Resident Evil 4. That's a big hit. Everybody loves it. Changes gaming, changes Resident Evil games, at least for the future moving forward, for the better, for the worse, and shows that you can make a Resident Evil game without zombies, which I've always been open to that. I don't think Resident Evil is just about zombies. There's the G virus, and it's about viruses and viral outbreaks, and there's a lot more to it. Umbrella, stars. There's more than just, oh, it's zombies in a town. It's like, no, I think there's a lot. You can always play with who the villain is in Resident Evil. The problem with Resident Evil 5 for me is that it just is a 4.5 DLC add-on for 4. It doesn't really add too much new.
No, you're right. It's essentially we've got okay. So people like the over-the-shoulder camera angle. They like this kind of form of gameplay. Let's take it somewhere else and put a new coat of paint on it. I'm probably biased because I remember I played this at Rose's house and had a great time playing it. But at its core, it's more of an action game. There's very little survival horror. The double-edged sword with Sheva is great AI, but I never felt I was in jeopardy while she was with me because she was very responsive.
I mean, I think the AI isn't as bad as maybe some people were saying it was. I know a lot of people were trashing it. I just thought the character was kind of forgettable. And I don't think you need a buddy system with Resident Evil. I think Resident Evil works a lot more when you're alone. And I'll be honest, when I first played Resident Evil 5, I bought it back in the day, played it, thought it was really good. Came down from the high, went back and revisited it years later. I was like, it's decent. But I just think they were just scrambling at this point, and you're going to go through all these little towns. It takes place in Africa. Yeah. So you're going to go through all these towns in broad daylight, which I didn't mind the look of it. The game looked cool. It's a better looking game than 6. I think the aesthetic, the heat of the day and how all the ambiance is, just it looks good. I like the setting in Africa. I like the setting.
I think when I was enjoying the game up until the bit where the fucking quick time events came on, where the guys in the bikes were attacking you. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And then you're in the back of a Humvee with like fucking machine guns shooting trucks and bikers and stuff. I'm like, what are we doing? Where are we going? Like the first earlier levels, it was creepy going around this kind of shanty town. And like fucking people coming at you with broken bottles and knives. But then when you had dudes in trucks firing machine guns and fucking in facilities where like there's dudes with miniguns and other kind of machine guns and stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's lost its essence. But I'm going to stick with you in the placement. I will hold it lower down the run, but I have a soft spot for it. I don't think it's a total fucking disaster. There is some fun elements at the early part, but keep in mind as well, guys, this is the game that gave us fucking Chris Redfield punching
a boulder.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's like garbage or anything. I'm not going to sit here and say I absolutely hate Resident Evil 5. As a matter of fact, from this point on, at least with the main entries, there's not really any games I hate from this point on. Like I can't say
it's most certainly better than fucking Giraffe Fellatio fucking blowjob game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like, I think Resident Evil 6 will always be at the bottom. But Resident Evil 5, it just I guess my brain problems with it is I thought it moved a bit too fast too. It just is a very short game. I beat it in like 2 days, and I don't play games like that. Like I'll play games an hour or two, put it down, go watch a movie type person. But I know some people, they'll game from dawn till dusk. They'll game for 5-6 hours. I'll game for 2 hours and I'll go. chapter to chapter. I'm a very slow gamer.
Again, I'm like myself, my friend, we'd fucking from about 5 p.m. when we get out of school to fucking about fucking maybe 6 or 7 in the morning, we'd play this. And yes, that is one cool thing. The Hydra was cool. The Hydra, the triple barrel shotgun was cool, Larry.
Yeah, I like that. I like which actually was a concept from Resident Evil Outbreak. But I like how they brung that sort of worm-looking monster back into this series with Resident Evil 5. I thought that was cool. Don't mind the idea of bringing in some more lore, although it does get ridiculous when it's like, oh, Umbrella. In Resident Evil 8, you see the Umbrella logo and the architect, and I'm like, wait a minute, so you're saying Umbrella was even involved over here too? What are they, all over the world? It's like,
yeah,
they're over here in Africa hunting for some flowers.
Essentially, this was where they turned into Tricell, right? This was the game where it was they were Tricell. And one other thing I liked about it, like, again, there's lots of things I like in this game. They brought back the lickers. You hadn't seen the lickers since part 2.
Mm-hmm. So, that was cool. It was cool. They tried to put Wesker back into the villain role again. I got a little B villain, to me though. I when fighting like with Wesker and Jill and stuff, I'm like, someone really liked the fucking Matrix. Someone, right? This is the age of fucking bullet time. I'm not gonna be too hard because every game was doing fucking bullet time and doing that kind of Matrixy shit. Every fucking game. Yeah, it adds a bit more of that B movie feel to it. There's a lot of over the top moments. I think it's a fun game. It's passable. It's a time waster. If you want to sit down and have a fairly straightforward, easy going gaming experience with some neat ideas here and there occasionally. I thought when it got to the whole, we're going to go in these ancient sort of tombs and these ancient areas where they got these flowers. I'm like, okay, that's a little silly, but for what it is, Resident Evil 5, it's an okay game, passable, not very scary. It's not really trying to be horror based anymore. Got a couple creepy scenes here and there, but I think it just when Resident Evil moved things, Resident Evil 4 moved things rather. Resident Evil 5 just leaned back on it and was like, oh, hey, Sasha, what's up?
Hey, Sasha.
Hello.
I mean, like, there was fun to be had. Like, we all laugh at Chris punching the boulder, but there was other silly shit there that you'd laugh at as well. Like, fucking trying to tear some kind of scabbard kind of controlling device off fucking Jill. Tear it off her tits while she's wearing a cat suit. And you're literally playing a character grabbing this woman's tits while bashing a button. And you're like, what has this franchise become?
Oh my god, dude, that's so right. It's like, what the fuck's going on here?
What are we doing? How did we get here?
Yeah. But to move on from Resident Evil 5, we get to number 10, which is not number 10 is Resident Evil 3, the remake.
Yeah.
A game that is disappointing. I think it's a big word with this game. Disappointing. Not what it could have been. Not what it should have been. Came out too fast and was rushed. And you can tell. There's parts in this game where I'm like, that does not fit. It doesn't come back. It's not established. What the fuck? Because there's a part where you get infected by this creature and you got to walk through and find antidotes and shit while you're fighting off these insect-looking things. Maybe that was in Resident Evil.
Yeah, dude. No, they were. They were the drain demos. They were the drain demos from Resident Evil 3. You encountered them. You didn't encounter them as much in the original as you did in this. And it was the same case like the spiders. If you got bit, you got infected. But with this one, it was a lot more visceral. The kind of fucking someone was jerking off to this fucking scene where she gets the fucking tube down her throat.
Yeah, this is a little too hentai. Okay.
Oh yeah, God love Japan, Fucking.
It doesn't come back either. That's like the one part, and she gets you got to get uninfected, and then it goes away. And I'm like,
it doesn't
okay.
set up any kind of gameplay mechanic that you
Hmm.
utilize later on.
Yeah, and I do a whole lot of those things, which happens in Resident Evil, where you get holed up in an area, enemies spawn. Hold them off for a little bit, move on to the next level. You get holed up in an area. Not even Nemesis is like Nemesis is a cutscene villain.
Yeah,
He's not even the main villain.
Nate, Nate, when the fucking original that came out for the PS1 had more randomized encounters with Nemesis than this. I mean, all you like when you were playing the original 3 for the PS1, you never knew when the fucker could attack. It now I'm guessing there was some kind of pattern, but it seemed like you never knew when he'd attack. In this, you always knew when he was fucking coming. Always. And that was the essence of what made the Nemesis in the original game so good. He was the fucking Terminator. He could come at you at any time. Whereas this, you're like, okay, better get the gun ready because once I enter this room, he's going to attack me. And he did not feel like a threat. In Resi 2, in the Resi 2 remake, they done a fantastic job making Mr. X this kind of formidable pursuer. But with this one, they squandered the potential of Nemesis. Raccoon City was fucking minuscule. The amount of Raccoon City you got to explore was absolutely fucking tiny in comparison to the original game. Yeah, it's so
There's so much you could have done with Resident Evil 3 because the original Resident Evil 3, it took me longer to beat that game than the remake. The remake, I beat this in the same day. I sat down, started it, and I beat it in the same day. No challenge. And it wasn't even on it wasn't like hardcore mode or anything, but it was normal. And there was no challenge. All the boss fights with Nemesis are easy as fuck.
Yeah.
I think what it was, they rushed this game too much. It came out right after the RE2 remake.
Yeah, it did. There was maybe a year between them. And it's like, I think they didn't realize how fucking good the reception for part 2 was. They're like, oh, fuck, let's get cooking on part 3 while the fire's still hot. And they're like, you could see they used a shit ton of assets from the prior game, but as a result, we got little to no DLC fucking content, no mercenaries, fuck all costumes, maybe 3 costumes for Jill, 1 for Carlos, no mercenaries game, a couple of weapons that you could you could unlock if you beat them in a particular time, but it was just it was a done and dirty quick conversion of the part 2 remake. And I would have preferred waiting, or if you use the assets to make something like I want a Dino Crisis remake. I would love to see a fucking Dino Crisis remake rather than a Resi 3 remake.
Yeah, it's basically if you took Resident Evil 3 and the original and you cut the story in half. You cut out all the side shit, you cut out all the filler, you cut out all of the level exploration. I think Resident Evil 3, the original, had to follow Resident Evil 2, and it did it in a big scale, and it did it in a pretty good way. And even though it emphasizes the action a little bit more heavy, when Nemesis showed up, you shit your pants every time. You're like, I gotta get out of here, or I gotta fight.
You were being hunted. You like a confrontation with Nemesis could go any way. With this, I never felt he was a threat. Again, Nemesis didn't feel like a threat. Raccoon City was tiny. They completely removed the clock tower section.
Yeah, which was ridiculous. That's what I was wondering. I'm like, no clock tower part? Just Raccoon City into the lab. That's all we get. Fucking lazy.
Yeah, it was really fucking shit.
And then, like, in the last boss fight when you're fighting Nemesis, you got Jill Valentine by herself picking up this giant ass rocket looking laser gun.
Yeah, it was some like attachment for a Gundam or some fucking shit. And it was all like, I'm sorry, but quick time events are not gameplay. They're just glorified cutscenes. Yeah, they're just cutscenes you have to fucking kind of play quickly. I will. Okay, I'll give it one pass. I'll give it one thing. The one thing I did like about the remake is there was no fucking water treatment puzzle.
Oh
That,
God, yeah, I agree to that. I agree.
that fucking water
Hate
treatment
that
puzzle.
fucking puzzle. It's the worst.
I
I'll give
literally-
you that too.
I literally went out and like they weren't cheap at the time. I saved up pocket money to buy a fucking strategy guide just to fucking do that water puzzle.
I don't blame you, man. I think I had to go on, YouTube and look it up because I'm like, how the hell do I do this? What do I do here? This is stupid, man. And you're stuck and you just keep trying to freaking do it. It's like, oh man, there's a few puzzles in Resident Evil where it's like that, where you got to spend hours on puzzles sometimes just to try to get them done, But yeah, Resident Evil 3 remake, definitely down in the lower part of the list for me. Not a big fan of it. But moving on, we got Resident Evil 8 Village. Very divisive game. Probably one of the
Incredibly
more
divisive
divisive games in the series. Yeah, absolutely.
It's fun, it's interesting, and it gave us a bunch of fucking dudes who are now perving over a big titty giant vampiress.
Mm-hmm. She became very popular online after this game.
Oh fuck yeah! This like the thirst was drawn with the fucking weeboos,
yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those games that you can tell they were just like, all right, let's just see if this is gonna work. We're gonna throw this out there. We're gonna throw in so many elements, and we're gonna see what works. And I think it works. I like Resident Evil 8 a lot. I had a very fun time playing it. I really enjoyed the environment and the ambiance. Although to call it Village is a little weird because, like Resident Evil 4, there's only a little part in the village. The rest is in castles and labs and all that other fun stuff with Resident Evil.
It was essentially a test, I think, to see, hey, will we get away with doing Resi 4 again? Because it's essentially it's Resi 4. It's a first.
It's kind of the same.
Resi 4.
Yeah, it is kind of the same game. Now that you
mysterious
say that.
Eastern European fucking country with fucking rabid fucking villagers. That's what it is. And a castle. And like fucking 4, you've a castle with fucking hooded, cloaked fucking cultists. You're like, Jesus Christ. We're doing this again? I guess so.
I do think that it keeps the horror element there, which I appreciate. Again, I think eventually every Resident Evil game, once we're moving forward to the next game, it has to add a bit more action. So I think with 7, there was hardly really any action. And most of the time, you're scraping for bullets. You don't have endless ammo. Here, yeah, bit more of that Resident Evil 4 route where it's a horror/action video game. And I like the idea that we see these Lycans, sort of werewolf-looking creatures. You also have this really wicked-looking one, which it's I don't remember what it's called. It might be called the Beast or something like that.
Yeah, that's the giant fucker with the hammer, right?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like the design of the village. I like the design of the creatures. It was cool seeing, okay, we got vampires here. We got a guy who controls metal. He's an evil Magneto type of dude. That was pretty interesting. You got a swamp-looking creature dude. Pretty interesting level, too. The possessed doll thing, I was a bit like, what the fuck? Like,
I thought that was cool. The bit with the fucking baby and shit fucking put you.
That shit was nuts. There's key moments in there. The scene where you get your fucking arm cut, sliced like in half.
I come here, Nate, full disclosure, right? And because it happened in the prior game as well. What's the main character called?
Ethan, I think.
Yeah, Ethan like gets his fucking hand chopped off, fucking puts it back onto his wrist, fucking sprinkles water on it. Grant, I'd be like, what the fuck is going on with me? We find out why in the end of this game. But he was doing that shit in the first game, and it was like, oh yeah, everything's fucking hunky dory. Dude, you're fucking regenerating limbs, and you're not asking what the fuck the deal is. It felt a bit weird.
Yeah, and I will say I do appreciate the fact that they tied that into Resident Evil 7, and I like the connection there.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people don't, but I dig it. I dig the DLC to this game. I wish Ethan, I guess in a way, I wish Ethan did more in the series.
that fucker had no personality. And I know it's a
Mhm.
first person game, and it's kind of hard to give a first person character personality. But in comparison to fucking other stuff, I mean, he's just above fucking Barry Burton going, "You were almost a Jill sandwich." But my God, he was such a whiny cunt. Oh, fucking Chris, why did you shoot my wife in the head? Where's my daughter? What's this? I said, just shut the fuck up and just fucking listen to man,
He's
please.
very bland.
He is. He is definitely the most milk toast. Like, say what you will about Sheva and stuff. Sheva has a bit of personality and stuff. This guy, I was like, fucking please, can we do something else? Please, someone else, anyone.
Yeah. I think it's a fun one, man. I think even with Ethan being as bland as he is, that's definitely. I will say this. I'll give the game developers this. I'm glad they did this. They fixed that horrid redesign of Chris Redfield in this game, and they brung him. They made him. At least he looked a bit more like the original Chris Redfield design.
Yeah,
That Chris Redfield redesign was terrible in 7. Terrible.
It was very uncanny valley. It's like what you think a human being looks like, and you're like, no, okay, characterize him.
Yeah, it's like, I'm Chris Redfield. I'm like, you look nothing like Chris Redfield, my guy.
No, he looked like the village had a more caricature of Redfield. It was a bit exaggerated, but it looked like him. The other one was like, who's this fucking dude? He just looks like he's from a daytime soap.
Although I won't lie, from the cover of that game, Resident Evil Village, I always thought like, oh, is Chris Redfield, is he a villain? Is he going to be like a werewolf?
Oh, they were trying to do that. I mean, yeah, like what the fuck? Just seriously, that cover is just weird. It's like,
you
what
see
are you
the wolf, and it's like, is he going to be a werewolf?
it's trying to dupe you into thinking one thing and another. Highlights. There was again the village section. We're going through the village. Was cool. Who the fuck is the big titty vampire woman? That was fun fighting her. Because again,
Lady something. I forgot her last name. Like
Demish. Oh fucking hell!
It's funny. I almost said Lady Snowblood.
I fucking she cut you up like she was fucking Lady Snowblood.
Yeah.
But that was cool having to take on her daughters and stuff. But after her, I just felt, bar the fucking weird doll, creepy baby fucking section. The rest of the bosses weren't that fucking engaging. Fucking dipshit who controls metal. I was like, so I'm taking him. I'm taking this cunt on in an armored bulldozer. Okay, I guess we're doing this now. And I'm like,
yeah. And the ending too, with I guess you can say, spoiler alert, with the mold coming back into play. I was just kind of like, oh, you wait till now to bring this back in? And there's this big
are
scene.
we doing spoilers?
Like, what?
Are we doing spoilers?
I guess we can. I mean, if anybody's here, they probably played the Resident Evil games. I'd assume so. But spoiler alert, y'all! If you haven't played Resident Evil 8 yet, we're going to probably mention this part right here, and it's going to be a major spoiler for the ending of the game.
Ethan. Okay, if I'm now, maybe I got it wrong, but it that Ethan didn't survive the first game, and it was just a version of him made of mold.
Yeah, he died. And when the first game you think he gets knocked out, he actually died there. And when he came back, it was a version of him that was created by the girl.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers, essentially.
Which is weird because he ends up killing that girl. At least you think he does in 7. So she made him to kill her. Kind of a weird thing they got going on there.
Again, it's like, and you're the copy, right? You're the copy of this person, but you're getting your arm fucking and hand and fucking thing cut off, and you're just like, whoop, stick it back on, pour on fucking whatever water, and you're not like, well, that's not once does Captain fucking Milquetoast go, well, that's a bit fucking strange. It's like,
just goes with it.
People's hands don't fucking glue back together like they're a fucking crash test dummy, you fucking dipshit. Something is amiss here.
Yeah, and they never hint at it at all in the previous game or this game. It's just sort of like, boom, it's there. Maybe you could say, well, that's the whole reason they kidnapped the daughter. But I'm like, they still didn't hint that Ethan was going to be, oh, he's this mold clone of Ethan. That's what we're dealing with here. It's like, I don't know, man. I thought that was a bit out of nowhere. I like the fact that at least 8 follows 7 in some way.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a bit of a cop out, a bit of a cheap sort of connection there, and could have been done better there. Definitely could have been done better.
And the fact the daughter was broken into, like, just so you had to challenge 5 different bosses, they broke the child. They broke the infant daughter into 5 parts. So her head was in one glass container, her left arm was in one, her right arm was in another, the torso. It's just like, what are we doing here? Like even Ethan's like, oh, it's my daughter. Yeah, I guess I'll fucking, when I find all her parts, I'll be able to put her back together like the fucking Megazord. What? How are you so fucking nonchalant about this?
Yeah.
Dude, you're holding a jar with your child's fucking head in it. Will you give a bit of fucking emotion? Like, sorry, Dave. I'm not trying to go off on a tangent, Dave.
No, I understand. I get it too, because it's just like that stuff is a little rough. It's like, okay, you could suspend your disbelief, but you're finding a jar with pieces of your kid in it.
And you know, well, I better could do this. Fair fucks, the dude is like, the dude must be on some fucking amount of fucking Prozac that he's that fucking chill. He's just found the disembodied head of his child in a fucking jar, and he's like, well, better get the rest. Dude!
Yeah. It's such a bizarre part. I think overall Resident Evil 8, though, fun entry, good. I like it. I had a lot of fun playing it. It's entertaining. Some of the story aspects could have been fixed. I thought if I had any main problem, it was I thought this is the game that I thought, okay, you strayed a little too far. It's a little too far away from Resident Evil. Just a little bit. You bring it back and with the next game and maybe tone down the whole. We're gonna go find these because I'm not even gonna be surprised if in the future we have, oh, these people, these witches are using witchcraft, and they were also involved with Umbrella, and they're using magic. I'm like, come on.
I do like the fact that they try and explain that, oh yeah, back in the fucking Dark Ages and stuff, oh, the virus was the reason people believed in werewolves and vampires and stuff, because it was like, you know, that's cool. That's cool in principle. I don't know if they'd done it kind of if it went kind of cohesively as it should have, but it's a cool idea.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's like sort of taking in real life, we have these legends of all these creatures. Well, in the game, there's a reason we have all the legends of the character of these things existing. And I like how Birkin. It's funny because like Birkin and Umbrella have to always tie back to something way in the fucking past. Like, well, Birkin's ancestors and the ancestors of the people involved with Umbrella. I'm like, come on, y'all, you're killing me with this. I love it. It's fun. It's fun seeing how far back a guy, William Birkin, who just is tied to the first game. He's got all these connections to all these different areas. I love that shit. It's just like, good luck trying to connect it all. Good luck.
It is the whole Star Wars thing of like, why do we keep on going back to the same planet, to the same family of characters? Like, it's like, you know.
Yeah, definitely, man. But moving on from Resident Evil 8, we're going to get to number 8 on the list, which is probably a bit of a controversial one. We got the original Resident Evil 1, the OG. Now, the reason I have this game ranked so low, I'm not like super familiar with. This is one of those Resident Evil games that when I played through it, well, the first time I didn't even play that much of it, but the second time I played through it, I just really didn't get much from it, which I know a lot of people like, that's blasphemy. It's the first survival horror game. Like, actually, there's more, but I respect Resident Evil 1 for what it did, the ambitiousness of it, the fact that Capcom was this little tiny little company over here making games. Resident Evil made them a juggernaut in the game world. And then they made Devil May Cry, and then they made all the, I believe, Final Fantasy.
Yeah. The thing was, Capcom were they were big, Nate, but it was mainly arcades with the likes of fucking Street Fighter.
That's true.
And stuff like that. But I think Resident Evil was the thing that broke them into the kind of sphere of consoles and dominating the consoles.
Yeah.
And they set up, when they got with Sony, they set up that Sony would be the only recipients of the Resident Evil license. And that kind of like, if you wanted to play a Resident Evil game, for the time you had to have a PlayStation or a PS2. And again, out the gate, it was a cool game. There was lots of good ideas, but this version is definitely a creature of its time. Gameplay mechanics, you have kind of the tank control system. You have really, really, really ropey fucking dialogue, which is fun in itself. But it's like, as I said before, oh my goodness, you were almost a Jill sandwich. And it's like, oh, blood. I wonder.
You wait here. I'm going to go over here and check this room out. Yeah. You stay here.
Here you go, Jill. It's a lockpick. And I'm sure you, the master of unlocking, will find it useful. Like, what? Nate, this is the type of dialogue aliens would write, because this is what they think humans would speak. It's like, it's like, Jesus.
You could tell they didn't really have a budget for voice actors in this one.
Seriously though, like, fucking, here, take this. It's really powerful. It's a weapon. And it's like, yeah, it's a fucking handgun. I can see that. What the fuck?
You guys supposed to be special forces?
They're special.
Here's a handgun. Be very careful with it. It's really dangerous.
They're special for all the fucking wrong reasons.
They're the special forces. Yeah, man. I this is more of a game that I like. I respect the more of the outside elements more than the game itself. I respect the history of it. I respect when it came out, it changed things for the better.
Nate, best way to put it is, this walked so this could run. That's the way I see it.
Absolutely. I agree. I got a lot of respect for that. I think too, I'll give it this. The idea of, oh, you're in a creepy mansion with zombies, but more giant snakes, giant spiders, traps, interesting stuff. I like how they add a bit of the fantasy stuff in there and make it not to where it's super ultra realistic. Let's have a fucking giant snake and giant spiders. Let's go all out. And the idea of it I like, but yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think Resident Evil's it stepped it up ever since Resident Evil 1. But it is a good start. It is a respectable way to start your franchise, and I mean it changed things, especially for the 3D gaming world. Was one of the first big ones. So I got a lot of respect for Resident Evil 1. But moving on from that, we got, which Yeah, now that I'm looking at this, I was like, man, did I really put it that low? But I guess I would, overlooking this list. But the Resident Evil remake, I would put above this. And I think it's far better. I think obviously the graphics, obviously the voice acting, but it felt scarier. It felt more interesting. The puzzles got really annoying. The inventory system got annoying. But I thought this was basically a better version of the first game. That's how I look at it.
It is, and like again, it was like we have the kind of tech. Let's polish up where we began and kind of make something that's more accessible to a younger kind of demographic. And they also added stuff that they couldn't add in the original game. I think they wanted to do the kind of Lisa Trevor kind of thing, because that idea of an enemy that hunts you around comes from another survival horror, I think, called Sweet Home, and
Yeah.
maybe the original Alone in the Dark as well, where you
Mhm.
had this enemy you couldn't kill, you could just like escape, and that's where Lisa Trevor came in, and I think that's another big draw, that you had like other sub kind of side plots and stuff. Um, Tins with the Crimson Heads, I think, were a good addition as well. I don't know where they put in to artificially extend the gameplay, but it was fun. Essentially, if you were playing the game and you killed a zombie, you were given the option to collect a little flask with lighter fluid, and you could douse the corpses in the lighter fluid and set them on
Mhm.
fire. And you only had I think you only had a limited amount of kind of lamp oil or something to douse the corpses, so you wouldn't get all of them. So
Yeah.
you would you would have to be very tactical about which ones you
And they
burn.
didn't do that in the original game, did they? I
No,
don't remember them doing that in that.
no, they didn't.
I don't think they ever
Uh,
did it again either.
they ironically, actually, for the DS version, they brought in the Crimson Head mechanic into the DS version.
Mm.
So, which is
Oh, that's
essentially a
cool.
remake of the original, but they brought in I mean, a full, not a remake, a full conversion of the original Resident Evil. They brought that in, but it was a cool mechanic. Um, I just think though it was brought in to artificially extend the game. Maybe I'm wrong. What's your thoughts?
It could have. There's definitely the inventory stuff. I was like, this is annoying. I got to go put this in the chest so I can go get this, but then I need this, and I got to go fight all these zombies to get back to the chest. And oh, I forgot to save, and I died right here. Oh shit! It's just typical Resident Evil problems. But with this one, it really stuck out to me that I thought
The,
it was a lot of back and forth.
oh yeah,
Retrack your steps.
lots of
Steps.
backtracking. But then I think that staple of the original kind of Resident Evil games, you had these big open kind of areas like mansions and town and
Mhm.
facilities and stuff where like, oh fuck, I need the key card, but it's in the chest on the fucking third floor, and you have to go back. It gets annoying if on the first play it gets annoying, but then if you go back and replay it again, you kind of are sussed out. Well, I'm going to need this later on here, so I'm going to leave it in this chest, or I'm going to leave it in this location.
Mm.
Um, it's it's a mechanic with a purpose, and it's a good mechanic, but it can get annoying when you're like, ah, fuck, I have to go
And
all
I'm
the way back
assuming they
here.
did it to prolong the game, make it more of a challenge.
Yeah,
You got to think of it more strategically.
it
Um,
definitely, again, it definitely put the survival aspect in the horror, because
yeah,
what myself and Nate also kind of neglected to mention about the early games as well, where the later games were action, you were given fuck all ammunition
yeah,
and fuck all weaponry in the early games.
yeah. In the early and these ones, you definitely had to watch what you shot, how much ammo you wasted on things, and had to really strategize your inventory and your weapons and your ammo and all that stuff.
Like
And I
sometimes,
like how they brung that into this one.
yeah, like sometimes the best encounter would be just run away or try and dodge it.
Try to get through
yeah,
it without shooting them.
they put in a really cool dodge mechanic, and also if you had something like a grenade or a dagger which were lying around, you could use it to fucking stab the zombie in the eye or put the kind of flashbang in its mouth and shoot it and shock it or stun it. That was clever as well. Again, because the game knew that you had to be very, very conservative with your ammo.
Yeah, and kind of the opposite of the original Resident Evil. I think this one hasn't aged a bit. It looks beautiful. The graphics are amazing. And at this time, I want to say it's an 03 video game. It's pretty impressive. Pretty good shit there. Even back in the day, I thought it was like one of the best looking games I've seen.
2002.
2002, it looks great.
Yeah.
The cutscenes are top notch. Aesthetically, it's wonderful. It's got more of an atmosphere and ambiance to it. It's my preferred Resident Evil one. I know a lot of people would say, well, the original is what started it. I'm like, yes, it did, but this improved it.
This is definitely a lot more accessible. Like if you
it's not a total remake. It's a remake, but they add new stuff into it. Which I appreciate.
They do. Again, the whole Lisa Trevor stuff, the thing with the fucking the Crimson Heads, and there was a whole host of costumes and weapons you could get. If you finish this, I think under 3 hours on the hardest difficulty, you got Jill's Resident Evil 3 costume.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mind the idea of when you play. Well, maybe you could have done it back when it came out too. But when I played this remake, I played it on the PlayStation 4, and you could select whether or not you wanted to play as the original design for Chris Redfield or the remake design for Chris Redfield. Same with Jill. I don't know if they did that in the original release though. I'm not sure.
Maybe the thing is, I think you could get. I think they, for the GameCube when it originally came out, I think they were unlockables, whereas the newer version maybe it gave it to you straight away.
I think so, which is pretty cool. But yeah, Resident Evil the remake, really solid remake, and showed that they could remake these games, make a little bit of money off of it, and also improve some things that they needed improved. But moving on from the Resident Evil remake, we come to number 6 in the ranking. It's another remake, the Resident Evil 4 remake. Very solid job with this one. And I was a little hesitant, not only because what I did was to sort of, I guess, celebrate Resident Evil 4 coming out, I played Resident Evil 2 remake again, Resident Evil 3 remake for the first time, and I was like, oh boy, Resident Evil 3 remake was worse than I thought it was going to be. I'm scared, because Resident Evil 4... I mean, it's the same thing with the Silent Hill 2 remake. I'm like, you've got to get this right.
Yeah.
You have to. It's like these games are very not important just to me, but important to gaming. And so you have to nail it. And for the most part, I thought they did a really solid job with the Resident Evil 4 remake. There's aspects about the original I prefer more. There's aspects about the remake I prefer more. So I think it balances it out perfectly. You can play both games and get your own experiences from both. They both have their own vibe, their own feel. I think this one does a great job at balancing the action horror elements perfectly. I think it just like the original Resident Evil 4. I think here, I like the fact that you can actually move when you aim the gun, and it's real smooth. It looks good. I don't really know if it added anything new, but it did retell the story pretty well.
It did. Like as far as adding stuff new, I liked what they done with Luis, because Luis in the original one was just some Johnny Depp looking pervert who was like, hey, look, I see the president packed his daughter with ballistics, and you're like, I'm funny for the time. This Luis is still a bit of a cocky fucker and still still pretty fun, but he's so likable.
He has a
And
bit more
honest
depth
to
to his
God,
character.
yeah, I shed a manly tear where he's like fucking, he's just there dying, and he's trying to light his fucking cigarette, and he goes, "Do you think if you do something good, it wipes out all the shit?" Because the dude done this for redemption.
Mhm.
If you collect the journals and stuff, you kind of realize that everything that happened here is kind of Luis's fault, and
Mhm.
I think the dude realizes, um, if I'm gonna fucking buy it here, I want to at least clean my slate and save these two, and he does, and it's a really good engaging performance, and
Mhm.
the thing is, you kind of you start to buddy up with him just before he dies, and you're like, ah, fuck, I would have liked,
Yeah, it
like
really
spend
hits
more time with
harder
him.
in this one.
Yeah,
Resident Evil 4, the original, it just didn't mind the character, but it didn't really hit that
he
hard.
he fucks off and comes back every once in a while, whereas this Luis is always a presence in the game.
Mhm.
He's like, he's pretty cool, and even like he's fucking, like, as I said before. Originally, he was kind of a pervert. He's a bit pervy. In this
Yeah.
one, he's still the kind of Lothario when he's flirting with Ada. He's like, "Hey, you got any smokes?" And he's like, he's kind of being all fucking, he's being Antonio Banderas and fucking Zorro, trying to fucking talk to Ada. Um, but it's
I think
good.
Ashley's better in the remake too
Oh
than the
yeah,
original.
if honest to God, like, I in this game, when I told Ashley, when you tell Ashley to hide somewhere, you wouldn't want to, like, hey, go fucking jump in that dumpster and want to leave her. You're like, shit, I gotta check if Ashley's okay. But
And she
this,
doesn't walk in front of you while you're firing at enemies and just
Leon,
walk in front of you and die.
Leon, you're like, oh,
Like, shut up.
fucking.
Yeah. I think Resident Evil 4 remake was good. It was what we needed. It moved faster than the original. I'm not a big fan of when they speed games up like that. Like, oh, let's speed it up. Let's make it a hyperactive version of Resident
Was
Evil
this
4.
one like 18 hours long? Like the main game?
I think so. I beat it in a couple days. It didn't take me too long to beat it.
Like there are side missions and stuff, and you can explore. Like, you can there's an open fucking map for a
Well, I
lot of the
noticed it with
game.
Resident Evil 2 as well. Like they sped it up. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, less about exploring, more about let's go. You can go find like treasures and artifacts and hidden little Easter eggs and stuff, but maybe do some side missions too. But
I'm a fucker for that though. I love that. I
yeah,
love getting every drop out of a game because, like, it's especially nowadays, because you're paying fucking what, 75, 80 quid for a fucking game now. You
yeah. So
want
you
to
want to
get,
get as most out of it as you
yeah,
can.
yeah.
That's totally true.
Um uh I like, there wasn't really, I didn't really have any issue with this. I thought
Mm,
the guns were all fucking cool. When you upgraded them, they were fucking beasts. I'm glad they brought back the Red 9. I liked what they did with Ada. A lot of people bitched about Ada, like, oh, she's fucking cold and she's a bit of a see you next Tuesday. And I was like, that's Ada. She's a
that's
femme
Ada.
fatale and a mercenary. And like, if you want a bit more personality, do check out the kind of, I know it's not called Separate Ways, but it's their version of the Separate Ways. That can, did you remember
It
Separate
adds a
Ways?
bit more to
Yeah,
Ada's side of the story.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I love her fucking design. They kept her sexy, but they didn't fucking have to be like doing something ridiculous, like having her going around in a fucking cocktail dress, some kind of fucking geisha cocktail dress, fucking fighting Granados. It's like, no,
Yeah.
no, they made it tactical, but they kept her sexy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't mind Ada's character in this, and I always liked how Ada, she's not totally a likable character. That's just her character.
She's
But
a
I like how
mercenary.
she has her
She's a
moments.
mercenary. She's a mercenary and a
She's just
spy.
doing a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a decent version of the character. I didn't mind it.
like if she can if if she can help Leon and it doesn't inconvenience her, she'll fucking do it. But like it's like, yeah, no, I'm here to get the sample. Yeah, if Leon can fucking give these guys some grief, it might work to my benefit, so I'll help him. So like again, very mercenary character. Um, boss wise and creature wise, what's your thoughts?
Love all the designs of the classic bosses from Resident Evil 4. I've always loved the lore from Resident Evil 4. I love the fact that it's more of a bacteria than a virus, and it's got different elements. Honestly, it may be creepier than the T virus and the G virus. I think it's a creepy ass, whatever you want to say, bacteria.
It's the same. It's a parasite. It's the same thing
Parasite
that was brought over by Tricell to Africa. So it's the same thing. So that's why we got.
the Las
That's why in
Plagas.
Africa version we got a dude with a bag and he's heading a chainsaw, and that's why in this one we got Doctor Salvador.
Mhm.
We he had another dude with a fucking cool kind of. This dude isn't even a boss. This dude is just like another kind of
Just
stalker.
doesn't go
character.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think, if you're a fan of Resident Evil 4, it does a good job at keeping the core values and making it and improve some stuff here and there. I also think if you're a newcomer to Resident Evil, you can play Resident Evil 4, and it's about the same feeling you could get from the original. Of course, I prefer the original, but Resident Evil 4 Remake, damn good job, solid job, really enjoyed it. And it's a good retelling of Resident Evil 4.
And you
Good
definitely
job.
get bang for your buck because
Mhm.
the lifespan of the game.
Yeah, great game. Good point in the series, right? We're in the remake saga right now where we're just going to
Yeah.
remake all these games. And if they keep doing them well, I don't mind it. Just take your time, y'all. You ain't got to rush. You ain't got to
Look,
rush.
even guys, if you want to fucking take a break, please do the Dino Crisis series.
Please.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for mentioning Dino Crisis. I fucking love Dino Crisis, man.
The first two, and then you had the spin-off, which was Dino Stalker, which was a light gun game, which was and then you had part 3 that was exclusive for the original Xbox.
I played that at the
Oh,
theater,
that
a
was
movie
shit.
theater near me.
That was shit. What was it? You were in mental station in space, and like alien parasites were affecting the dinosaurs, and you'd a jetpack. Where the fuck did this come from?
Wow. That franchise went down fast.
Oh yeah.
I do love those games, though. I'm glad you brought that up. Wow, it's been so long.
They need to be. I'd love if we got a fucking remake of them.
Mm-hmm. Good shit. Those are good games too, y'all. If you haven't played Dino Crisis, please go play it. It's great. Number 5 in the list, we got Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which is weird. I wonder if in Japan it's Biohazard 7 Resident Evil. Kind of curious, but I really love this game. I think it's a wonderful reboot, and it got Resident Evil back to being a horror game again.
Yeah.
And I always will respect it for that. I love the characters. I think Ethan's a bit weak. I think some of the other side characters are a bit weak, but I love the aesthetic. I love the setting, Louisiana. And I love the first person aspect, which I would have never thought. Like, to me, first person was more blasphemous than zombies. I'm like, first person? What?
I think fucking Blowjob Giraffe was so fucking bad that they had to do something dramatic to fucking make up for it. And yes, I'm gonna call 6 Blowjob Giraffe from it was just it done so much fucking damage to the series. They needed, okay, we need a clean slate. And the first person, we need a clean slate and we need to show we're back doing horror. Let's make it first person. And that it was perfect. The Baker family. I remember watching the trailer and I was like, that's fucking Texas Chainsaw. That is fucking Texas Chainsaw.
Absolutely. You can see they drew a lot from like the Southern horror films, these
Yeah,
movies about going way down in the country and who you're going to meet. And you think it's really just going to be a simple game about a killer family. But I like how it delves even deeper. Man, Resident Evil is not always about what you see on the surface, it's about what the labs hold, what the research holds, and the various locations and the great freaking graphics. Whole new engine for Resident Evil. I think it's the RE engine
yeah,
for
the
Resident Evil
RE
7.
engine that was made from scratch for that game. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't have it this high up on the list because I think you do spend a nice bit of time in the Baker family home, but then later on, there you deviate and you go into like underground labs and shit, and you're like, okay, we're back to the same old, same old. Still fucking scary, but I think they could have utilized the Baker
And
family
it
a
needed
lot
more
more.
diversity for the villains. The
Yeah,
villains are just mold creatures. That's all they are.
yeah. It's like, come on. I mean, maybe fucking give two more fucking members of the Baker family. Add a couple more. Maybe there's some other people that are actually fucking infected or part of this weird family.
Is the
I
DLC good? Because I didn't play any of the DLC for
th- th-
set.
there, there's a couple. There's a few different types of DLC. There's one where you play the chick that fucking that resurrects Ethan, and you play her uncle, the Baker's brother, the head Paul Baker's brother, and he's in a cabin, and he's looking for a cure for her, and he has to fight off. He has to fight off not only other fucking mutations, but also the UBC, not UBC, the fucking crowd that Chris is working for. You have to take them on and other stuff as well. And there's a bit more. There's DLC that's very like Saw, that's with the baker's son, who's made all
Mhm.
these traps and stuff. And Chris has to fucking rescue his team that have all been hooked up to these kind of Saw. Again, this is kind of the greatest hits of contemporary horror with this one. Or and not just contemporary horror, obviously Texas Chainsaw, but the DLC with the son is it's 100% Saw. It's like you're in a Saw movie.
Yeah, I'll have to try them out. I remember hearing about the Sun DLC. I never got a chance to really play any of them though. I didn't even play the DLC for 8, although I know about it. But it is always interesting that they add even more stuff to the games after already telling the main story. They're going to add a little side stuff to give you more in-depth look at different characters and everything. And yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. I'll definitely try to play the DLC eventually. Maybe when the new Resident Evil game comes out or gets announced, I'll probably go back and play those just to kind of get in the mood again. But
I'm
yeah,
sure. I'm sure. Like now that it's been out a while, although you know what game companies are like, it should be as cheap as chips. You'd hope it'll be as cheap as chips.
I think so. Maybe even like with Game Pass, it could be free. Maybe, hopefully, we'll see. But number 5 is Resident Evil 7. Number 4 is the Resident Evil 2 remake, which I thought was a solid ass game, and it really got me back into Resident Evil again.
It almost reaches like perfection for me, but there's some stuff that fucking kind of kind of ruins it for me. And maybe it's nitpicky shit, but we'll get
Oh,
into
it was
that.
for good reason. I mean, it kind of pissed me off too. There's certain moments I met with Burke, and there could have been more stuff. And I thought it's a sped up version of Resident Evil 2, basically. Did
The
remind me of that.
again the mechanics for the original Resident Evil 2 are actually in some ways sharper than this, because so you could play the game Leon scenario A, Claire scenario B, Leon scenario A, Claire scenario B, and in the original scenario A fight with Burkham, uh, is Burkham in a humanoid form, kind of Hulk humanoid form. Scenario B is Burkham in a kind of dog form,
Mm-hmm.
and you also fought like Mr. X in in this in this game. yes, you still fight Mr. X in scenario B or Leon scenario if you want to go with that. The Burkham boss battles are exactly they're exactly the same. The end encounter with Burkham is exactly the same in scenario A and scenario B, which makes no sense because at the start of both scenarios, Annette Burkham dies. So she dies twice, I guess. She gets
Mm,
shot, gets up, and then gets fucking stabbed. I don't know, but the
that
fight
was a bit weird.
it
Yeah.
was that you fight Burkham in A and B in the same location, in the same form, via the same method. It's like
Which
come on
doesn't
guys.
add up. It doesn't make any
No,
sense. Like, wait a
no, it
minute. So
doesn't.
there's two different alternate universes. So wait a minute. Why does the first scenario end with, oh, you want to see the real ending? Play scenario B. But then scenario B doesn't change anything.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Whereas the original, Nate, the original fucking Resi 2 changed it.
Absolutely. I always preferred scenario B because I always thought scenario B had pretty cool little twists to the
Yeah.
story that don't go the exact same way that you think. And I'm surprised that a game, probably 20 years ago, could have done something like that. But with this newer game, they couldn't do anything like. I'm just surprised they didn't do that.
Dude, I think you're being a bit nice by saying 20 years ago. Fuck,
I think it's
98.
it's like a year older than me.
Yeah.
So 25 years ago. Wow.
Yeah.
That is absolutely crazy. But I think that the original Resident Evil 2, obviously, I'd put it above this one. But I think with those problems being there, I can say they put a lot of focus on atmosphere. And I
Yeah.
think I'll say this, the best atmosphere of any of the Resident Evil games. As far as
this made zombies scary again.
Absolutely. I was going to say the zombies are terrifying in this game. It ain't like, oh, you shoot them in the head, they're done. And like, if you shoot them in the head, I like the detail of like you begin to see their skull and it just gets real gory.
Again, it's like you got to get their brain so you can knock off a chunk of their head. But if that brain is intact, like you got to keep on shooting till there's nothing but a pulpy mass.
Mm-hmm. Graphics look amazing. I was impressed with the graphics when it dropped. It was definitely a game I pre-ordered, and when it dropped, and I remember the hype. We were all wondering, "This is RE2, man. Is this going to be freaking good, or is what's going to happen here?" And it blew away my expectations. There were a little bit of things I had issues with here and there. I think the original is better, but it is a really good remake, and I think the graphics are amazing. Just nearly cinematic graphics. They look beautiful. The liquors are terrifying.
The liquors were fucking pan shitting in the original game. They're fucking still scaring this. The sad fact is, right, with all the stuff that Resi 3 remake took, they didn't take the fantastic fucking game mechanics of Mr. X and put it into fucking Nemesis. Like the fact is that once Mr. X was introduced into Leon's scenario, if you used a gun, if you fucking attracted too many zombies or made too much noise, he was fucking on you. And
I love how if there's a zombie near him, he just swats it away and kills it. I'm like, that's funny.
But when he's introduced, you're like you're kind of like, okay, should I take on these zombies, or if I make a noise, is he in the proximity? Will he hear the gunshot? It kind of makes you think that as well.
Yeah, that's another suspenseful aspect of the game that I really liked. If you use explosives, liquors could come from the walls and attack you. If you use guns too much, your zombies will walk in from other rooms. I like how it's not like, oh, you enter a room and the zombies stay in the other room and you're safe. No, they follow you.
No,
they'll follow you all over the map.
They'll start slamming into the fucking door till it swings open.
Yeah, I like that mechanic. The load screens, if you're not a fan of load screens in Resident Evil 2, this one doesn't have that. It's all one big game. I don't think there's a load screen, at least. Not an obvious one. I like the plant monsters that you fight in the lab. Those are pretty interesting.
Yeah, the fucking head split apart and just eat
Yeah,
your
that's
fucking head.
pretty fucking cool. I like that. I did think it slowed a bit down in the lab part. It just felt like it was a bit spread out, but I do think
That was, in fairness, now that was kind of the same with the original as well. Because
that's
once you
true.
got out of the sewers into the lab, you're like, you're going back and forth. You need some kind of fuse to fucking activate your generator to defrost this room. If you want to get the fuse, you have to go through this area. But you need to get to the flamethrower to burn the plants on the fucking ladder. It was the same kind of lark with the original, but not. You were engaged enough that you overlooked it, and I think this was the same as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think it's a great freaking remake. I think the ambiance and the look of everything, the heavy rain, zombies they look terrifying in this game. They look really good, and the character models, keeping all the puzzles there, solid ass game, very very good game in the Resident Evil series. Do I think it rivals the original? I think the original holds a special place in my heart. I don't think I can really put this one above the original Resident Evil 2.
I think there is, maybe 2 has a bit more longevity, because like there's a lot of stuff to unlock in the original, and there isn't as much to unlock in this. It's still chock full of other cool shit, and you do get the fucking hunk and tofu missions in this as well.
Oh, nice. I like the music better in the original Resident Evil 2 as well.
Oh yeah, it's a lot more creepier.
It was cool seeing the map, the police station upgraded to today's graphics, and it's a bit bigger, there's a bit more rooms, a bit more puzzles. So I think graphically it looked good, followed the story pretty well, and I thought it was just a wonderful remake. Not much more I can really add to it. It's just a really good job.
I do like as well, they added a new section, the orphanage section, and you had to play as Sherry.
Yeah, that was cool.
From Chief Irons. That was cool as well.
Yeah, I like that. That was a good addition. But getting to number 3 is Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, which I can also throw in Code Veronica right here because I think they're both equally funny enough. They were supposed to be 3. Each one of them were supposed to be 3. Now, I know people say, well, obviously Code Veronica is the better game. And I do think Code Veronica may be a bit better. But I still love Resident Evil 3 Nemesis.
If I'm not mistaken, this was originally released for the Dreamcast and then got to release in the PS2. I don't know why, but this is one game that I struggle to finish. It meanders a bit. I find it meanders a bit. There is cool stuff, the dual wielding the weapons, and you get to play a couple of different characters. You get to play the fucking Redfield siblings. Steve Burnside annoyed the fucking piss out of me. And what those creepy fucking Glenn versus Glenda fucking twins were also a bit fucking bizarre. And the twist with them as well. That was a bit weird. There's a lot going on. Some of it very silly, some of it cool, but it's definitely essential if you're a Resident Evil fan, I think. But I definitely put 3 over it. I'd prefer 3 to that than this one.
Yeah, I like Code Veronica. It's good. I put it up there. I gotta play it again.
Would you put it higher? Would you put it higher on the totem than 3 though?
Probably not. I think I just said I did, but if I'm really thinking about it, probably not. Because even though it looks better than 3, it looks like it moved forward a bit more than 3. Not really the biggest fan of the villains and the story of Code Veronica. I think it kind of goes all over the place. And
it goes very fucking soap opera with those twins and just Like, are they lovers? Are they brother and sister? Oh fuck! It's a Norman Bates situation.
And I
Shit.
thought they were just annoying, really
Yeah.
annoying characters.
Just
And that one character, it's like, well, he lost his parents because they worked in the
fucking
lab.
Steve fucking Burnside. Jesus
So
Christ.
annoying.
It's like, and it's like, dude, fucking Claire is out of your league. You know who he reminded me of? And I'm not trying to be a dick. He reminded me of fucking Jake Lloyd from fucking Star Wars. It's like, yippee!
Yeah.
He gets the gold Lucas, and he's like, yippee! It's like, what the
I know
dude?
that was so silly.
Fucking,
And it's just like they throw a mansion in there for shits and giggles. Oh, here's a mansion,
you know,
even
here
though
we want
it's
to we want a reference, we want a nod. All of them have
yeah,
to have mansions, though.
uh-huh. Here's the spooky manor. Here's the area that's behind the manor, and here's the laboratory underwater. And I'm like, yeah, I think Code Veronica is a good game, but people say it's like Resident Evil 1, 2, then Code Veronica. I'm like, I put other ones above Code Veronica, but I do like Code Veronica. I think it's a good game, but it's just not very memorable for the story and everything to me.
It's it's there's good stuff here, but you have to trail through. You have to fucking wade through a lot of shite. I think
I
some
hate
of
the
the boss,
villains.
some of the boss battles as well, like
The
fucking
boss battles
Nosferatu.
suck fucking ass. They're so
Nosferatu, that
annoying.
fucking dude in the straitjacket, with the big fucking arm, and you're like, he's fucking taking cheap shots, and I'm like,
Yeah, I hated that fucking boss fight.
yeah,
But Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, I do love. I do like it more than Code Veronica. I think the scale, this how big they made the game and how every environment. I fucking love
yeah,
the
and
old school look of these games.
it's again, it's so depressing to think that this game has a more expansive fucking game, an expansive world or playground
Yeah,
that you can explore, as opposed to fucking the remake. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, seriously, this is all you're giving me?
yeah. It's a shame, man. They really could have made an excellent remake of Resident Evil 3. There's so much there you could bring to life, but it just when you rush something, they because Resident Evil 3 is very ambitious. I mean, you're going through Raccoon City, various levels, alleyways, out in the middle of the street. There's fire everywhere. There's zombies on fire walking around. There's explosions happening. Nemesis is shooting rockets at you. You're trying to run away from him. Dogs will jump at you from a fire and they'll be on fire. It's just you go to a gas station, you go to like a subway tunnel. There's so many various areas you go through to and you also see the police station for a little bit, so that was pretty fun. And Nemesis is definitely one of the best villains of all time. He's just such a cool villain. All he has to say is stars, and when you
And
hear that
again,
you're
again,
fucked.
unlike the remakes they learned from Mr. X in Resi 2, they learned that like randomizing your encounters made this fucking dude scary. It's
Yeah,
like
because you never knew when he was going to attack
no,
you.
you didn't. You didn't. Whereas in the remake, again, as I said before, I'm coming into that section, better get my fucking grenade launcher ready. You never knew. You
Mhm.
never knew. So you always had to be like, well, I better make sure I have enough shotgun shells or a couple of grenade rounds or freeze rounds to fucking tackle this fucking dude.
And I
That's
never got why they never did this in other Resident Evil games because it adds another element to it that I like, new element. You
yeah.
got to actually make your ammo in this game and know your ammo types and know what
They
gunpowder was which.
they brought it into the remakes. They
Yeah,
did bring
I,
it
I,
into the
I like
remake.
that. Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake and 4 remake did it. I like that. But
Um,
it's shocking to me they didn't do that in like Resident Evil 4 and Code Veronica and 5 and a few of the other ones
I
because it
I
could really work.
I think because at the time they were experimenting the whole making the ammunition thing and also the quick time event thing was brought over from Dino Crisis. they were two elements they were experimenting with in Dino Crisis, which had come out at the same time. Such
I
as
always chose run. I was like, oh, you either run or fight. It's like, I'm running, bro.
I'm fucking down. Yeah, I'm gonna do a whole lot of damage with this fucking handgun. Fuck that
You
shit.
fight him one time, you learn to run.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, fuck this. I'm out of here.
I think the game, if you died in the game, it was your fault. The game had a learning curve and it taught you how to deal with Nemesis. There was also kind of an escape kind of mechanic that if you got close, you could dodge or you could shake yourself free, but that was finicky. It was very hard to pull off. But there was other kind of cool elements. Like if you played in the harder mode and you decided to fight Nemesis, you'd get, I think there was either 6 or 7 lock boxes that he dropped. 2 were to assemble a handgun with a laser sight. 2 were triple pack first aid sprays, and 2 were to put together a lever action kind of shotgun, like the one Arnie used in Terminator 2. So that kind of gave you an incentive later on if you were playing in a harder difficulty to take him on. So it was, again, it kind of made you think, well, is the reward worth the risk? And it kind of taught you to take risks as well.
Yeah, and I think the ending's a lot better than the remake too. I thought the ending was a lot more satisfying.
Which one?
So from what I remember, isn't it where you gotta turn the levers, and certain levers will trigger? I can't remember. I haven't played this game in a while.
I thought I like because some of the the quick time events also affected the ending of the game. So one ending would be you and Carlos fly out. The other ending would be Barry would arrive in a helicopter and rescue you and Carlos.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there was a couple of different quick time events. Like,
well, I got the one that where me and Carlos flew out of the city.
Yeah,
that was one that I remember.
It's essentially the same kind of ending, but just with different dialogue and a different camera angle. Like you still see the city blow up and stuff, but instead of Jill like talking to Carlos, it's her talking to Barry. And yeah, I know it's interesting. It's there if you want it. You also get character epilogues for all the characters from the universe. Did you, again, you're not someone who's like go back and play something time and time again to unlock all the stuff?
Not at this time. I was more like, okay, I beat Resident Evil 3. Let's move on to Resident Evil Code Veronica, and kept moving forward type of thing.
Again, the other reason I liked Part 3 was while it didn't have the same level of replayability as Resi 2, it still gave you some stuff to come back. So you had okay, go back, play it again, harder mode, unlock all the secret weapons that you get for down in fucking Nemesis. Every time you finish it in hard mode, under like 2 or 3 hours, you get a different epilogue. And you also got the boutique key. Going back to Dino Crisis, one of the costumes was Regina's costume, including a red wig for Jill, a sexy cop outfit, Jill's original Resident Evil 1 outfit, a disco outfit, and a biker chick outfit.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and again, there was a lot you could get. And then also, on top of that, you also had Operation Mad Jackal, the first ever Mercenaries game in the series.
Wow. That is fucking awesome. See, I do appreciate that they add a lot of, even these older games, they add a lot of stuff in there to keep you busy even after you beat the games.
And again, it was cool because at the time, now you're laughing, this fucking was $40. This was £40. And you're like, well, like, I think I was working part-time when I wasn't, I was working in a pub on, hey, Colton, I was working in a pub
What's up, Colton?
on Saturdays and Sundays, so I had enough saved, and I picked this up, and yeah, it was worth it. Again, bang for your buck.
Yeah, I couldn't find a physical copy of that game. The one I played was like it was on the PS3. They had a few of the classic ones on the PS3. So I just bought it on there. The controls, man, those controls are brutal. I was like, "Oh boy. Here we are back to tank controls." I think I
Oh yeah,
played this and Code Veronica later. So I was like,
yeah,
"Oh
no,
god."
tank controls again. That's another reason why the original Resi is just hard for anyone coming into the franchise going, oh yeah, I'm gonna old school it. I'm gonna go retro and play Resident Evil 1. I think younger gamers nowadays would be like, what the fuck is this?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. But it has their charm to it. But yeah, Resident Evil 3 made it to number 3. Number 2 and 1. Don't be too upset with me, guys, because these are either or. These are some of my favorite video games
I'm
of all
guessing.
time.
I'm gonna take a guess, Nate. Is this your number 2?
Yep, Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
As far as tonight goes, sometimes it switches, but Resident
Ironically,
Evil 2 is my second favorite. Yep.
ironically, this is my number 1, and your number 1 is my number 2.
Hey, man, that's still two great games there in two good
Yeah.
spots, and I can go either way with it. If someone said, "Well, I don't know, Resident Evil 2 does have its merits," I'm like, "Yes," and another person's like, "Well, Resident Evil 4 is better graphically and gameplay wise," I'm like, "Yes," but I love both, so no one's wrong here. But Resident Evil 2, man, like I said, very special game. Probably the first video game I actually sat down and beat and played all the way through and played scenario A and B and was just hooked to this game. And it was one of the things that also made me a horror fan, because after this, I watched Nightmare on Elm Street, and then I watched Jason, and then here I am today, freaking making videos on YouTube for you guys. But yeah, so Resident Evil 2 goes way back with me, and it's a special game. Yes, I know everybody's going to be like, nostalgia, that's why you like it. I am nostalgic for it, but I do think it is still, despite its age, a very, very well-made video game. And it stepped up a lot from Resident Evil 1. It fixed a lot of things, a lot more bearable. It's a lot more playable. It's a lot more easy to get through mentally, and you're not just freaking flipping out because, oh my god, I went left but it went right, what the fuck, or oh, I missed that shot, but how? It's a lot more easygoing. It's got cutscenes that aren't live action. They actually have CG cutscenes in this game. Great music. I love the soundtrack to this game. I love the music, not only just in this game, but I love the music of Resident Evil. But this game in particular has one of my favorite game soundtracks. I love the save room theme, the basement theme. I remember even the first floor, the second floor.
Entering the police station, that fucking theme is brilliant. Burnt into my fucking mind.
That's a cool idea. Resident Evil 1, mansion up in the hills. How are we going to follow that up? Resident Evil 2, taking place in Raccoon City, run down and destroyed, and you're going to go to this police station. There's an underground laboratory, and
it was like, okay, we need to put another mansion in it, but we need to set it in a police station. Let's have the in-universe explanation is that the city's museum was converted into a police station. Okay, I guess. I don't know if this is a common. Is this a common occurrence in the United States?
I don't think so. But it's like, oh, they still left all the puzzles in there. It's like, but if these people are just living a day-to-day life, are they going to solve puzzles on their off time and their lunch breaks?
Not only fucking puzzles, there's like fucking statues and busts that are like worth maybe fucking hundreds of fucking thousands of dollars or millions even.
And you're trusting people just to work around that stuff. Yeah, okay. There's like one. I also love how there's one little office area for all the cops. I'm like, that's like an office for the detectives. But all the cops go there.
It's like it's a massive fucking building. You could, And
I forgot to mention this with Resident Evil 3, but I love how these old Resident Evil games, they had pre-rendered backgrounds.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's almost like matte paintings for video games where the background is still, and the only way they animate stuff is if it's moving in the frame.
And there's cool little environmental details, like you're going down a corridor and you're walking by a row of benches and the camera's close to the corner of the bench, and like you see like a handcuffs hanging off a rail covered in blood, and you're like, okay, again, great storytelling. It's great fucking storytelling, man.
Yeah, and it just got that look down. I love the look of the abandoned, chaotic, just rundown police station. I think it's got a great look to it. It's got a good story. I like all the characters, Claire Redfield and Leon Kennedy. Some of my favorite video game characters of all time. Leon Kennedy is probably my favorite. He's probably my favorite lead character from a video game. And I know everybody's like, what? But I think Leon Kennedy is a great character, and you see his growth through all the games. And it's you feel so bad for him. He's a rookie cop, and boom, here's a zombie. Here's a zombie infested city.
It's his first fucking day. I like the opening as well, explaining why the characters are separated and why you have the option to play these different characters that like they meet up, but then fucking because of a truck exploding, they're separated, and they have to enter the police station through two different kind of ways, depending on whichever scenario. Also, fun fact, because I know as you said, you're a big horror fan, Nate. The original teaser trailer for this was directed by George Romero. It was a live action trailer directed by Romero. And I think Brad Ruffino, I don't know the actor. He's an actor from the 90s. I think he was a NAP pupil. He plays the live action version of Leon in that commercial. Have you seen the commercial actually, Nate?
Yeah, I didn't know they did a live action one until later on, but when I heard about it, I went and checked it out. Like, that's so cool. It's so B-movie looking, but it's cool.
It's minuscule, but it's pretty cool that Romero directed it.
Yeah, it's such a neat thing, and it's so weird because we don't get that very often now, where, oh, it's a game trailer, let's make it live action. They don't really do that anymore. It's kind of a lost art. So it's pretty cool they did that. He was supposed to direct
a live action version of the movie. I read the script, and as bad as what we got was, I am so glad Romero didn't get to make the movie he wanted to make.
Really?
It was shit.
Was it anything like the games, or was it completely different?
It starts off with a farmer being killed by crows, and then cuts to a scene with fucking Jill and fucking Chris fucking in their apartment.
What the fuck?
They're having a breakup. They break up after sex, and it's just it's just what are we doing here? And Chris is half Native American, and he's able to fucking track the fucking the crows or the dogs or something back to fucking the mansion. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? No, it was horrendous, man. You can read it online.
Jesus.
But it's fucking shite. It's shockingly fucking bad. Which is sad because it's Romero. It's the fucking godfather terrible. Of zombies, like, you know.
That sounds horrible.
Oh, it was. But yeah, I love this game. I love the kind of the replayability. As I said before, you can play kind of Chris scenario A, you can play Claire scenario A, Leon scenario B, or you can play Leon scenario A, Claire scenario B, and it does vary, and you unlock a whole load of shit. And then if you beat it under a certain amount of time, you get to do the Hunk mission, which is Hunk getting from the sewer to the roof of the police station. And then if you beat that, you unlock the Tofu game, which is just fucking bizarre.
Yeah, I know about that mode. I seen gameplay of it. It's great. He's like yelling. He's like Japanese. He's yelling all kinds of crazy stuff.
It's this little bar of fucking tofu. And all you have, I think you've 8 healing items and a knife. And you have to, again, same thing as Hunk, get from the sewer to the roof. And they have a version of the tofu missions in this, but they give the different types of tofu, they give them weapons. So
That's awesome. I did see that. That's cool.
But again, there's other cool stuff. Like, for example, if you're playing in hard mode and you go in the underpass, rather than going straight into the police station, go. Okay, so I'll tell you how I think it works. If you don't kill any zombies between the police station and but from between where you start and the police station, then go into the underpass. All the while playing in the hard mode, you'll encounter Brad Vickers. You kill Brad Vickers, you get a key for the dark room, and if you are Leon, you can access a kind of tank top or a denim or raccoon police precinct jacket. And if you are Claire, you can access this kind of cowgirl jacket and also a Colt Navy revolver, which she does a quick draw with.
Yeah, I remember when I first played the game, I managed to somehow do that. But when the replays came along, I was like, oh, I'm just going to kill these zombies on the way through. But that's pretty cool. I like that little addition they did there. Again, I like how scenario A and B are different too.
Yeah, there's so much replayability with this game. For me, it's my number one.
Yeah, you can't go wrong there. I mean, it's an excellent game. Yeah, I definitely think it's one of the best games ever made, for sure. But number one for me would be Resident Evil 4. Yes, this is out of all the Resident Evil games. Oh, that's a pretty cool case.
Did you get it? I'm assuming you got the digital version.
No, with Resident Evil 4, the first one I had was a regular just PS2, just a plastic case. That one got scratched to all hell and broken, so we had to get a replacement. And the replacement we got was a steelbook version of the game.
This one?
That's a great cover too. No, mine was it was just the regular cover, but it was more of a steelbook look. You got all steel books. That's awesome.
Yeah, no. This version, for some reason, I do not know why, comes with a walkthrough guide.
Oh,
I have no idea. They stuck a walkthrough guide in.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's right up as far as the fucking Delago. So
nice. Yeah, Resident Evil 4, though, my favorite of the series. While it's not my favorite game of all time, it would be my second favorite game of all time. I think I love everything about it. I love how it's different from the other games, and it took more of a over-the-shoulder approach for shooting the enemies. No more tank controls. The graphics were amazing for the time this came out. Wonderful engine for the game. Love the story. Las Plagas, dealing with Lord Sutler. I love all that. I love the characters. I love Leon. I think all the other ones where we're getting the problems. But Leon's great in the game. I love all the one-liners. I love the look of it. It's such a good ambiance, good game for aesthetic reasons. And the music. I remember there was points in this game where I would just stop and listen to the music and look around the environment. And it'd be like you take a screenshot of that and take the music, and they have all kinds of ambiance videos for Resident Evil 4 on YouTube. I think it works perfectly. It's haunting and creepy, but beautiful. And there's a track on this soundtrack called Serenity, one of my favorite music tracks of all time. I am a huge fan of this game, huge mark for it. I think it changed, once again, it changed gaming, and I think Resident Evil is a very special franchise because you have a lot of key games in the series that even other entries try to copy, and Resident Evil 4 is one of them. It has cool environments, cool designs, cool weapons, upgrades. The merchant system was pretty neat. Over here, stranger.
What are you buying? What are you selling? Not enough cash.
Not enough cash. I love how we just fucking did that. That's what I always think of.
I like also like in this region that's filled with these fucking monsters and these mutated people. And this fucking dude's just bombing around with a bunch of guns. He's like, what the fuck? Who's this fucking?
And you're always
dude?
wondering about him. Like, ooh, is he? He is infected. He has the
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah, the eyes are fucking. That's what I was wondering about. Like, and just again, did he arrive later and get infected by Las Plagas and just these?
I love that too. I love the lore. You can explore so much of this game and find out backstories, but behind Dr. Salvador and the merchant and all the history of the castle and how everything connects. It's got a good lore to it too. Very rich lore, lots of building the background stories, and it's excellent. Excellent.
Did you save the Timberwolf before you
Yeah.
entered the Yeah, so he helped you with El Gigante.
Yeah, that was cool. I love all the bosses, the boss battles. The graphics still look good to this day. The only thing that I think has aged poorly is like the side characters, like Luis and Ashley. They're annoying at times.
Leon,
Ashley is real annoying. Leon, help! Leon! I'm like, damn it. Gotta go rescue her again. But yeah, it's a good action video game and it's a good horror video game. It balances it perfectly. And it's got everything you'd want in a Resident Evil game to me. Yes, there's no zombies in it, but I didn't mind the new enemies. I didn't mind the fact that you're in this rural European area and just you have to go from level to level and deal with these crazy farm people, and then you move on to the creepy castle and you go meet the druid type of villains. Those are pretty creepy too. I love Resident Evil 4, man.
I like the first siege in the main kind of town or village. And like some fucking, it goes pure straw dogs where you're pushing fucking cabinets in front of doors, and you're like, "Fuck, okay, I gotta check the upstairs now. I gotta check the downstairs."
You're wondering when it's going to end because they keep spawning. You're not really supposed to kill all of them,
It's essentially kind of a fucking siege or a fucking a wave after wave kind of.
Resident Evil Village did the same thing where you start the game and I can't kill these things. They're all going to kill. You're not really supposed to kill all of them, They're just sort of giving you like, hey, you're fucked. You got to get through this.
It's like, okay, well, there's a pump action shotgun up here, but I only got 4 shells, so I'm gonna have to be fucking really tactical how I go about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gets even creepier because later on in the game, the villains upgrade and their fucking heads explode and they have all these tentacles and shit come out of them. And the stalkers, I think they're called the lurkers or stalkers or something like that. Very creepy. Also,
the heads explode because it's nighttime. Whatever parasite it is, it doesn't like sunlight. Also, Colton, it's part 5. It's part 5 that had those kind of characters.
Same virus, the Las Plagas.
Yeah, Las Plagas. But this game is pretty cool. There's a lot more things to explore. Things that kind of pissed me off, the suitcase. It's like, as much as the chest, going back and forth to chests annoyed me, the fucking suitcase is a bit of a pain in the hole. We're doing a Tetris kind of job.
Yeah. Can you reorganize your case? Can you make it work? It's like, I'm just trying to do this automatically, y'all.
It's like, fuck it. I need space for this, so you end up using ammo for like the fucking pistol that you'll need later on, but you need those fucking med kits right away, so.
Yeah. Do you think that Resident Evil 4 was good for the series, though? Because it ended up causing a lot of changes afterwards, more into the action realm.
I think it's a definitely a double-edged sword. It gave a shot into the arm of the franchise. Hey, Eric.
What's up? How you doing, Eric?
Resi 2. Yeah, that's my number 1, and that was Nate's number 2.
Yeah, I can't argue with anything there.
But you, again, as I said, double-edged sword. It gave a shot into the Armored franchise. You know, you weren't dealing with just mindless fucking zombies. You were dealing with like fucking kind of human-esque kind of creatures, I suppose, that could use logic and tactics and stuff to fuck you over. But it did. That's when the kind of the tide of the action element started rising into the franchise.
Yeah, because I often think about that too, because it just changed everything as far as it was hard to make Resident Evil scary again because you could just run into a room and blast away stuff. And even though you had guns in Resident Evil 4, and yes, you could blow away stuff, I do think that the horror elements of the ambiance, of the atmosphere, of the boss fights, there's still a little bit of, dread there when you're playing it.
Nate, not just with the boss fights as well. The regenerators, they were a fucking nightmare to deal with.
Yeah, and like the sound they make.
Going back, if you're like, okay, I don't have enough fucking space in the fucking suitcase for the thermal scope, but I need the thermal scope to kill the regenerators. You're like,
exactly. Fuck. Oh, thank you, Ark. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I think Resident Evil 4 is it's definitely my favorite. I could understand though if people were like, well, because of Resident Evil 4, we got 5 and 6, and yes, that's true. But because of Resident Evil 4, they got Resident Evil because there's only so much more you could do after Resident Evil 3. You can't keep doing that formula over and over and over again. You had to change it eventually.
And again, it was a shot in the arm because
Yeah, and I think too they had a whole game made before Resident Evil 4, and it was supposed to be Resident Evil 4, more supernatural, but they're like, we can't go that route.
It was in a fucking haunted house with Leon.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another kind of stalker, kind of nemesis boss called the Axeman. They're like, wait, this is a bit of
ghost, literally a haunted mansion type of game.
Yeah. I'm like, it's a bit too removed, you know?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll give them this. They always try, but you do got to be careful because you can't try everything with Resident Evil. It does eventually. 8 showed us that, okay, that went a little too far out to the left field. Let's try to bring it back in the next one, please. But yeah, Resident Evil 4 is my favorite. Resident Evil 2 is Marty's favorite. 2 wonderful games, 2 badass games. And Marty, I am now checking the runtime of this stream, and I am so sorry I kept you here for 2 hours, man.
No.
It was fun though, man. It was
cool because again, I got to fucking shoot the shit about a franchise I love, and again, it's given me fucking feels because I got into this franchise thanks to a friend of mine who's dearly departed. And when I think of these games, I think of that person. And I just want to thank you for giving me that opportunity as well to reminisce about something that reminds me of someone who I miss a lot.
Oh, not a problem at all, man. It was a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for joining me on this stream. It was a lot of fun. It was a total blast. And it was cool finding another Resident Evil fan, man.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. Really awesome stream. Thank you so much for being here. I also want to say thank you to everybody in the chat for being here as well. Sorry for the long show, but we got into it. Hey, but we got through it though. It was great.
We did.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much, Marty. And we'll see you guys on the next review. Later, y'all.